Welcome to Unleashed. And don't forget to join us on Patreon for early access and exclusive content. Here are the guys.
Hello, scumbags. Andrew Fantasia here. And guess what? We're talking about something that we talked about before, but quite a long time ago before. See, about 3 years, and from the looks of things, 15 and a half pounds ago, I did a video where I talked about something that was a big part of my Star Wars fandom back in 1997 when I was a wee 10-year-old pup. Well, now I want to talk about that again, except this time I want to actually use a good quality camera and microphone and maybe let you see the thing I'm talking about instead of through the fuzzy lens of my 8-year-old iPad camera that couldn't pick up jack. So let's try this again. Welcome, one and all, to this little look at Scholastic's Star Wars missions. Ooh, can I get some light on it? There we go. There's Star Wars missions right there. And there's my reflection in the case. It's all good. Star Wars missions was a mail order thing from Scholastic, as you can see. And what it was essentially a pen and paper role-playing game that you played through a series of books that would come in the mail every month. The best way to describe it is, let me just crack this sucker open and show you what's inside. On the first month, you would get this beautiful little Darth Vader carrying case, and then you would open it up, forgive the noise, and inside, you'd have all of this. So let's take a peek. Now, as I mentioned, it's a pen and paper role-playing game, and all of it is confined to these books. So here's the first book that comes with the first package in the mail. The first Star Wars mission in Star Wars Missions. And look how shiny and embossed this is. Isn't that pretty? The other ones aren't embossed. They put all their money and effort into book one. But this is book one. It's called Assault on Yavin 4. And like everything ever, it takes place immediately after A New Hope. Because that's just where storytellers in the EU like to live. And it gives you a little bit of a synopsis at the back, and then inside, you can see it's a very thin book, because these are meant for kids, right? But on the inside, you've got some chapters kind of setting up the story, and then you've got the main mission, where you go through, and there's a bunch of things that happen. So you'll be walking down a corridor, and it's all told to you in second person, you drag the stormtroopers to a stone wall. So it's written like that. And then you get to a point where there's like, oh, somebody's after you. You better do some dice rolling and figure out how to beat them. And that's the game. That's how you played Star Wars missions. The rules were very weird. I don't want to get into them because they kind of just don't make sense, but they do, it is playable. And this was actually written by Ryder Wyndham, who did a lot of Star Wars books, both fiction and nonfiction, back in the day. I don't know what Ryder's doing these days, but Ryder was a big name in Star Wars in the 90s. So on top of the book, you would also get your mission cards. Now, these are, as you can see, there's a lot of them here. Over time, you collect several of these. But what these are is you got characters in this purple thing here. So you got characters you can choose to play as any of these characters. Then you get red, which is weapons. And you got guns and more guns and even more guns. This one's called a bipolar blaster carbine, which is a funny name. I guess this gun... sometimes it's your best friend, and sometimes it's throwing things at you because it's a bipolar blaster carbine. Whoops! Oh, of course, there's lightsabers too. I don't know why you'd want to choose a bipolar blaster carbine when you got a perfectly good lightsaber, but hey, that's just me. Rhodian cryogen whip. This needs to be a thing in a movie. So you get your weapons. You can choose between your weapons. Then the green ones are ships. Same concept. You choose your ships. You got Falcons, speeder bikes, X-wings, all that fun stuff. Oh, and I'm dropping things all over the place here. See what happens? And then finally, these fuchsia ones are force powers, or they just call them powers, because even if you have a character who's not force sensitive, you can still use them. And they do things like you move objects, you evade, you vehicle evade. Ooh, that's like normal evading, but with a car. Deception, sleep. Look at this. Look how cool these are. I just love the graphics. I'm moving them farther away. I just love the graphics on all of these cards. And the way that these cards all get used is they all have stats at the back, right? So you flip one over, you're like, oh, bargain, I want to use bargain. How does it work? Well, boom, this tells you how it works right there. Here's a real quick example of the rules, okay? Say you're playing as Luke Skywalker and he's got a blaster pistol. And the book tells you, okay, there's a stormtrooper shooting at you, so here's what you need to do. You need to pick out your weaponry, right? So Luke Skywalker's got a weaponry of 2, and then the fight you're partaking in is a mid-range fight. So you can see here on the blaster, the mid-range accuracy is also a 2. So you would take that 2, and then it says add your weaponry, total of 4. Then it would say roll a die, and you would roll a 12-sided die. And if you roll less than 4, less than whatever number total you got, you succeeded. So obviously the higher your numbers, the better chance you have of rolling less than them and thus succeeding. If you fail, you lose some points, but you get to carry on. There's no, it's not like a choose your own adventure book where it's like, oh, you die, go back to the beginning of the book. Thank God, I hated those. No, so you just keep going, but you lose points. And the points system was the whole sort of basis of this, is just trying to get the highest score possible, and they give you these little score pads where you can write down your points. I guess I threw my old ones out. And there's also a mission guide which explains the rules of this crazy game, because they are weird rules, and there's an error in the rule book too. The main rules about how to roll the dice and succeed and everything, there's a huge error, and because of that, when I played the game as a kid, I always played it wrong because I just went by what the rule book says. Don't go by what the rule book says, kids. There's an error. It's just as simple as that. They goofed. It's okay. Scholastic can't always be perfect. It also came with this book called a mission log, where it's literally just a book of empty spaces. It's like a diary, and you can write down notes and strategies. So, for example, if you really think you need to write down a strategy for book 6, then you write it down. And I wrote down a couple strategies as a 10-year-old. I don't know if they still work because I haven't played this since 1998. But there you go. I wrote a couple strategies in my time. And they also gave you this membership card. Star Wars Missions, the future of the galaxy depends on you. And by you, they meant me, because I was the one given the money. And at the back, you write your name, hereby accept my mission, and account number. I don't know if I actually had to write my account number, but I just wrote the number 8001.5 because I thought that was like my cool James Bondish code name. They didn't give me an account number. I just improvised. You goofed again, Scholastic. I kid because I love. And finally, with every mission, you would also get a blueprint. That's what they called it, a mission blueprint, which is basically just a map. So for example, the first mission took place on Yavin, so you get a map of the Yavin system. And it's a map. I think later on they get more detailed because he needed it, because, you'd be like, oh, I'm stuck on a weird planet and I don't know what's going on. So here's a better example right here. So this is number 4, I think, or number 3. But you're on this planet called Delrakan. So like, okay, well, here's Delrakan. Here's the city and everything where you are. It's the most bare bones map you could imagine. There's a better look at it. And there's a jungle. That's where the Falcon crashed. There's the caves. You never have to adhere to this blueprint when you're playing the game. It never happened once. Look at this map. Look at that. That really clears the air, right? That lets me know exactly where I'm headed. The maps were more for just giggles than anything else. But it was a nice little addition still. And hey, if you're one of those kids who put up posters in your room, you could put these up as a poster. And they take up relatively little wall space. I never had posters in my room as a kid. I didn't want to nail shit to my wall. Come on, man. So, as you can see, I was subscribing for a long time. I had a lot of content in that box, and I also have a lot of the mission books. I go up to number 15, even though I'm missing some. For some reason, some months, it just didn't show up. I don't know. Maybe my mom didn't pay for it that month. I don't know. Maybe bills were tight. And she was just like, yeah, I guess it got lost in the mail. I don't know, but I'm missing a couple. I went up to 15 and I stopped. I think the whole thing went up to 20, so I didn't miss too much. But, there's lots of other missions. There's Leia, and look, there's Chewbacca. And the way they kind of did it was sometimes you play a mission where you were a rebel. And if you were a rebel, it said at the back, may the force be with you. But sometimes you would do a mission where you're not playing as a rebel, but you're playing as like an Imperial or a bounty hunter or somebody kind of sketched like that. In which case the back wouldn't say, may the force be with you. It would just say good luck, because the bad guys don't say, may the force be with you. That's not how Tarkin rolls. So you got all these really thin books with missions, and you could add your points together every mission. You keep your points from month to month, and you try to get the highest amount you possibly can. Oh my god, look, I just rifled through one of them and I found my old scorecards hiding inside. Look at that. I had, let's see what my final score was. 6,858. I don't know if that's good or bad. I couldn't tell you. But wow, look at that. It was just hiding inside this final Princess Leia book. Isn't that nice? Nice little piece of nostalgia hiding in there. But like I said, I used to play the game incorrectly because the rules were not very clear. So who knows if I even earned that 6,000 plus points. I don't know, maybe one day I'll go back and try to beat that record. But for me, the best part of being a subscriber to Star Wars Missions every month was not getting the posters or those cards or finding out new missions and stuff like that and all that. That was nothing to me. That was the appetizer. For me, the main course was that every month, included with all of this, you would get a magazine. Scumbags, behold, this is called Star Wars Kids. This was the magazine that Scholastic made that would come with every single Star Wars missions pack. Star Wars Kids, it's a very different magazine from Star Wars Adults. Star Wars Adults got a little blue. So what Star Wars Kids would do was it would be a magazine that was very informative and just full of the best goodness you can imagine. I'm going to flip through this one and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So every issue spotlighted a particular character. In this case, issue 1, Luke, right? Why not? He's your main person. Go with Luke. So you flip open this, you get a nice little table of contents, and there's original art that was peppered throughout all of these magazines. And the art was drawn by somebody, I believe his name is Chris Trevis. And I got a fun story about that in a minute. But first, let me show you just how this would be laid out. So you get your contents. Now, this always made me laugh. See right there where it says poster pullout? Look at that. It says, a Luke Skywalker full-color poster for you to keep. Really? I get to keep the poster? I thought I would have to mail it back to you, Scholastic. Thank you. Thank you for letting me keep the poster in the magazine that I'm also keeping. How nice. I just always thought that was funny. So you flip to the first page. Now remember, this is 1997. So the prequels are being made, but they're not out yet. So along comes this. Ask R2-D2 about the prequels. And R2-D2 would just give you stuff about the prequels. So people would write in. Random people would... Actually, in this one, nobody's writing in, but this is just the magazine asking questions, right? And it's like, hey, R2-D2, what's a prequel? Is it the same thing as a sequel? I don't know. Tell us. And then R2-D2 would tell you. And his text is blue because so is he. And he tells you about what's going on in the process of making the prequels and gives you some insight. He doesn't spoil anything. Like right here, it says, will you be in the new movies, R2-D2? And he says, yes. So will my counterpart, C-3PO. You'll also meet a few others. But I'm not going to give away all the surprises yet. We both know what surprises he's talking about. Captain Tarples, I'm looking in your direction. Now we flip to Maloo over here, and we got Yoda's puzzle page. And again, that's a Chris Trevis piece of art. He drew Yoda. He's just a great artist. And then so you have these puzzles, and Yoda's like, oh, unscramble this and do that and search a word here. And there'd be some bad jokes in the meantime, like Ewok and roll, and there's just a picture of Ewoks, or Luke got a ticket for skywalking. Just horrible jokes, whatever. And then you would have to solve the puzzle. I'd like to solve the puzzle, please, Vanna. Then you'd move on to the main feature. Here you go, meet Luke Skywalker. So because this is the Luke issue, you would get to meet Luke Skywalker. Again, you got a beautiful drawing, original drawing by Chris Trevis of Luke. And then there would be an interview with Mark Hamill, where he, in this case, tells Star Wars kids what it's like to be Luke. And it's just this nice, big, chunky interview with Mark Hamill talking about, working on the Star Wars. And I say chunky, it's only like a few paragraphs, as you can see. But for a little kid, this is a huge amount of text. For a 10-year-old, it's like, wow, look at all this stuff Luke is telling me. They'd even squeeze some little facts here in the margins every once in a while. So, for example, here it says Tatooine's two sons are called Tattoo 1 and Tattoo 2. Always good to know. Even the page numbers they had fun with. Look at that. See, that's Darth Vader in the corner telling you that this is page 10. And on the other side, there's Luke telling you that it's page 11. How great is that? So after you get your Luke Skywalker thing, you move on to this. You get a maze. There's a maze here. It's an amazing universe. Well done, wordplay. You've trumped us again. And you got amazing. You have to get the land speeder to R2 without bumping into any sand people, and then get to the Lars homestead afterwards. Great stuff. It's a maze. Who doesn't love mazes? Then you got this thing here, Who Does That? Where they would kind of spotlight something behind the scenes and talk about how it was made and by whom. So in this case, you got the sound designer, Ben Burt. There's Ben right there. And it's talking about how Ben conjured up the sounds for things like Chewbacca's roar, lightsabers, Greedo, probably. I don't know. I haven't read this in a while. But it's all there. Who does that? How do they do it? It tells you. Fantastic, right? Kids are learning. There's that full-color pull-out poster of Luke for me to keep. So if I really wanted a picture of Luke in a poncho on my bedroom wall, I could tear this free of the staples, destroying the magazine, eliminating any chance I had of reading this factual stuff in the future and whatever's on the back of this page as well. And I could have this nailed and or stapled to my wall for years to come. So I could always cherish the poster that Scholastic was kind enough to let me keep. I'll never understand poster kids. I'll never understand you. Then we got On Our Planet. This was really cool. So they would take a featured planet as well. Every issue you had a featured character and a featured planet. Because it's Luke, they went with Tatooine, because that's kind of where he's from. Even though he was really born on Polis Massa, but we didn't know that yet. So they would talk about Tatooine. They'd give you some facts about Tatooine, how it works, who lives there, etc. And then they would say, okay, where on Earth is there a place like Tatooine? And then they show you, like, oh, look, well, here's the Chihuahua Desert, Utah, Nevada, South California. And then here's Tunisia, the Sahara, up northern Africa, where they actually filmed the Tatooine stuff. And they give you all these facts about it. So you're learning some geography, too. Great stuff. Kids are learning. It's educational, and they're talking about Star Wars. Why not? Then this was my favorite. Who is that alien? This is my favorite part of these magazines. Is, again, you got Chris Trevis doing the artwork. Chris Trevis had these aliens, and he would show you all these facts about the aliens. So all that useless knowledge, folks, that you hear me spout on the Rebel Scum podcast show, all the dumb things I know when I did the trivia contest with Rob McDonald, and I'm like, oh, that alien is a blankety blank blank, and he comes from the planet blank blank blank. I know that because I read Who Is That Alien in 1997 religiously. I loved this article so much. And every issue had a new one. They pick two aliens and talk to you about them. And again, because this is running with the whole Tatooine theme, we learn about Jawas and we learn about Sand People. And it tells you so much about their culture, what they do, what they don't do. My favorite was the very end where it would say, what you do if you run into one. And for the Sand People, what to do if you run into one, it says run away as fast as you can or do what Luke did, faint. Amazing. Now, Chris Trevis, the gentleman who drew these, this obviously was my all-time favorite part of these magazines. I knew the name Chris Trevis over the years because of that. And last April at Celebration Chicago, who has a little booth there but Chris mother effing Trevis? I got to meet the dude, I got to shake his hand, and I said to him, Chris, your art in Star Wars Kids is the reason I know what Jawas are. It's the reason I know what Hutts like to eat. I have you to thank for that. He just smiled and he was like, that's so cool, thanks, man. And he was selling pieces of his art. I wish I had bought one. I in hindsight, I should have bought a piece of art, but I was being very frugal at the time because I didn't know how much money I had on me to spend and what I was going to need it for. When I made this video last time, that was January 2017, when I last talked about Star Wars Missions, Star Wars Kids. I had not met Chris Trevis at that point, so it's a nice little update for you. Chris, brother, if I meet you again, I'm buying some art. Then you got Brain Blasters, where it's C-3PO, and he gives you trivia, and you got to answer his trivia, and it's not the easiest trivia, but you know what? Rob McDonald. Here's a question for you, Rob McDonald. What was the name of the red droid Luke's uncle bought from the Jawas? There you go. I wrote down answers here. I actually wrote down a wrong answer. This is pretty funny. It's shameful. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a general for Princess Leia's father during what wars? The answer is Clone Wars. We know that that's a big deal now. Back then, I didn't quite remember that, and I wrote down Secret Wars. I guess I was just thinking of Spider-Man at the time. Nice going, Andrew. Then you have a Star Wars Missions bonus page, and every magazine would also come with one of these. And this was basically a bonus mission for your role-playing game, so you could just get some more points. Rack up them points, and in this one you confront Darth Vader, which probably doesn't go over well for you, But there you go. You get to fight or evade Darth Vader. I'm choosing evade. Have you read the Marvel comics? There is no way I'm standing up to him. But there you go. You got more points for your Star Wars missions tally. Then you got space science. You learn more. You were learning geography before. You were learning how a movie set works before. Now you learn about space, and there's black holes and the Milky Way and the galaxy and all that. Space science, great. And at the end, there'd be a comic. And this was always split up into pieces and scattered throughout the magazines. I wasn't a huge fan of the comic. I don't really dig the art. I think it's kind of bland. It's a comic. And it's literally 4 pages long, and then it's like, oh, to be continued. And I'm like, wow, I was really riveted. How weird am I? I'm a 10-year-old kid. I get a role-playing game and a comic, and I'm like, these are okay. But, teach me about space science and give me poncho posters. That's what got me excited. I don't know what's wrong with me. And then here, the last page would just be like answers to all the questions and things like that, and the credits, and then it would tell you, next month, Chewbacca. And then, lo and behold, issue 2 was Chewbacca. I just remember back in 1997 having so much fun with these and just being enraptured by these magazines. Learning about the prequels as they were being made and learning like, there's going to be a young queen. This is what young Obi-Wan looks like. She was called Young Queen. They literally didn't have a name for her yet. See, Natalie Portman will play the Young Queen. Spoilers. I just loved digging into the world of Star Wars and reading about it, both behind the scenes and in universe. And then you get the great Chris Trevis art that just pops and shines to this day, 20-something years later. It all just looks great. You learn about the actors who played these characters, and that was sort of my first foray into getting to know actors instead of just the characters they were playing, and realizing that, hey, there's a flesh and blood human being underneath all that yak fur who brought Chewbacca to life so I could be entertained. Thank you, human being. Let me learn more about you. And you would get posters, which I obviously never cut out and kept because, frankly, why? And I learned more about planets. I learned more about our planet. This was my first time learning that there was actually a house that Chewbacca lived in that we never got to see because I didn't know about the holiday special till much later. And I learned about aliens. And I got bonus missions, which I don't think I ever played these bonus missions, so I never added those points to my point total. But I had so much fun with Star Wars Kids magazine, and every month it was like Christmas. It would come in the mailbox, and I'd be like, it's today, it's here, it's here. And then I would rush over and I would read the magazine first because that was my favorite part. And then if there was time, I would play the game. But as long as I got those magazines read, that's what was important to me. And another fun little update, because like I said, last time I made this video talking about these was January 2017. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been missing some of these, right? You already saw issues 1 and 2. There's issue 3. 4 had Wedge. Let's see here. Let's see if I can do this. Now you got 5, and etc., etc. So then we get to a point here, right here. All right. So here's Lando, and Lando is issue number 9. But then my next issue was initially 11, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I was missing issue 10. And I made the video talking about the issues I was missing. And shortly afterwards, my best friend was watching the video, and somehow he decided to jump onto eBay, crack through the system, and find the issues I was missing. And he actually bought them for me, which was so nice. So Tiago, thank you so much, dude, for buying me the missing issues. So right here, I'll show you. Here's issue, number 10, the Boba Fett issue. That's one that I was missing. The Ultimate Bounty Hunter. So I got to learn about Boba Fett finally. Bob A. Fett, there he is. I was also missing something that you guys are going to find interesting. So the last issue that I ever had was number 15, R2-D2. Again, I don't know why I stopped. Maybe we just didn't have enough money to keep subscribing to this. I don't know how much it cost every month. Probably wasn't cheap. But there you go. R2-D2 was number 15. He was the final issue I ever had for a long time. And I never got to issue 16, which was a bummer for me because issue 16 was CVP, my favorite character. And I finally, thanks to my friend Tiago, got the CVP issue. And yes, 3 years ago when he bought it for me, I read the hell out of this issue, and I think I even might have done some of the puzzles. I don't know. They are used, so maybe the puzzles were already done. I can't remember. But I got the CVP issue 16, and I also got 17, which was Yoda, and 18, which was Greedo. Now, 19 and 20, which is apparently the end of it, I still don't have. 19 is Akbar. I think 20 is like something weird like Moma Nadon or something. Somebody really out of left field. But how cool is it that my buddy picked up those missing issues for me, and now I got to experience some more Star Wars Kids 20 years later. That was why I did that thing in 2017, because it was 20 years since 97, which was when these puppies were coming out. But at the end of the day, like, I can't say enough good things about Star Wars Kids and how much joy this magazine brought me. I don't have kids myself. Clearly, I'm not off to a great start. But if I ever do have kids one day, you know what? I'm going to introduce them to Star Wars Kids, because look at this. You get to learn about planet Earth, you get to learn about science, and you get to learn about Star Wars. You ever want to know how Harrison Ford felt about playing Han Solo? There you go. You know. And you can learn what a Hutt is, and what Rhodians like to eat, and what to do if you ever run into a Chadra fan. These are going to tell you. So that was the Scholastic mail order extravaganza. That was Star Wars Kids and Star Wars Missions. I had so much fun with these things in my youth, and I don't know if anybody else out there remembers these. I don't even know if Scholastic is as big in the States or other parts of the world as it is here in Canada. In Canada, Scholastic books were everywhere. You couldn't get away from them. This little red logo would haunt your nightmares. It would be all over the place. But from the initial video that we made, we got a few comments about people who spotted it and said, "Oh my God, I thought I was the only one who had these." So a few people have reached out and said that they enjoyed either Kids or Missions or both. And that warms my heart. I want more. I want to hear more stories about other people with Star Wars Kids and Star Wars Missions. And you know what? If you're one of those people who has those other magazines, take a picture of it and put it in the comments below. I just want to see what the cover looks like. And maybe show me some of that Chris Trevis artwork too. I'd never say no to that. And you know what? I've got all these old Missions books that probably most of them have never even been played. So I'll tell you what, we'll do a little poll on the Rebel Scum Podcast Twitter page, and you can go on that poll now. And if we get enough votes up on the poll, here's what I'll do for you. I'll do a special separate video where I will play through a Star Wars mission, and you guys can watch along and watch me make a complete ass of myself as I roll dice, try to figure out complex rules, and tally up a points system that was obsolete 20 years ago. If you want to see that happen, go onto the Twitter poll and click yes, or however it works. I don't know. I'm not a Twitter guy. You know it better than I do. But if we get enough yeses, I'll do a Star Wars mission just for you. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, scumbags. I will see you here next time. Until then, may the force of others be with you. Unless you're in the Fringe or the Empire, in which case I'm just going to say, good luck.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.